Hey, I'm just glad to be back.
Yeah.
Glad to have you back.
I
didn't know you were gone, but
Yeah.
When you got back, there was just a weight lifted off my shoulders.
Like, man, I don't have to take the compost anymore. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ethan.
Welcome back.
Thanks, man.
Dude, how was Japan?
Nihon, man. Hey,
I probably got too much of this coffee.
I was.
Yeah, you got like all of it, my dog.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
You're going to spill
Don't do
all of it.
Don't do it. Just let us.
He has to do
there'll
it
be a group
now.
cup.
Group cup?
Can you
Group
just
cup.
trust me?
Here.
I don't want a group cup.
Well,
Try-
what if that's my serving?
Shh.
You're amazing.
Wow, you didn't spill one drop. Anyways, how long were you in Japan?
I was in Japan for 2 weeks, maybe 13 days, because my flight got canceled on the way there.
It did?
Yes.
You didn't tell me. You didn't call me crying like you always do.
I knew, but I had to get it out of him.
You weren't like, Russ, what do I do?
We
Help me.
were at Hartsfield Jackson ATL airport for about 6 hours. Our connector to Chicago before we took the big haul to Haneda Airport in Tokyo got delayed due to bad weather in Chicago. And then that pushed back our exit, and then we had to go home.
The Windy City was a little too windy.
A little too windy. We flew to Washington, D.C. the next day, which was 2 hours in the opposite direction, and then took a 14-hour to Tokyo. It was hard.
There are no direct flights from Atlanta to Tokyo, just crazy expensive.
I don't
You didn't arrange?
remember.
Okay.
I kind of blacked out.
Yeah.
But
I flew direct.
we flew direct home.
Mm.
I'm not sure I think maybe it was just the times, and there weren't that many flights. But hey, we made it. I did miss Coffee Fest because of that.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I was looking forward to.
Yeah.
How was first class, though?
Dude, you can't have first class with a baby, so there wasn't even a shot.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
I've never thought about that.
Yep, you can't have a baby up in first class. Sorry.
Hmm.
But which is interesting, though, because the plane is so loud. A baby crying is not that big of a deal. I've come to realize. Like, there were some babies crying in another area.
Mm.
I had no clue.
How much did Temple cry on the plane?
We had like a good 7 to 8 hours, like a little napping here and there, playing. He's not really a screen guy, so he didn't really care about the fact that we could watch or play games or something. But when it was like time for him to really sleep, and he just like, his only option was laying across his parents' legs.
Oof.
Pretty rough. But the 2 weeks of him just getting thrown around, never napping, having to like pass out in a stroller, I think geared him up for the flight home, where he needed to sleep across our legs the whole time, which he did.
Nice.
So the flight home was awesome.
That's
Also,
good.
we flew, this is so tangential, but I think you might find this interesting, and so I will choose to say it now. We flew United all the way across, United Airlines. I was kind of worried about it because I didn't want to do that. We were going to fly with a really nice Japanese airline called ANA, but the staff and the flight experience with United Airlines was awesome.
Wow.
And then we flew home with Delta, and they weren't very nice.
Oh,
What?
I know.
how about that? It's almost as if it just depends on the crew.
It almost is like more about people than like brand recognition.
Yeah.
So you did a bar takeover at Sedai,
You don't want to keep talking about the flight?
which, how did you know the people from Sedai?
So out of our Alfreda Cafe, we run some English exchange classes, and we just picked up some Japanese friends along the way. And it really was just mutual friends of someone I met named Yoshihisa, Yoshi for short. His friends were starting a coffee shop in this area of Harajuku.
And they roast their own.
And they roast their own. And you'll never guess, they roast on a Loring.
S15
Right.
Falcon?
I think it's an 8 kilo.
7.
7 kilo. Absolutely.
Nice.
They're really into some crazy coffees.
Mhm.
So I got to take home a cinnamon co-ferment from Colombia. That was fun. They had a hybrid washed geisha, which was really good on the cupping table a couple days ago. Yeah, great people, really cool space. Such a fun opportunity it was cool to like just be in Japan and be hanging around, traveling around. And then after like 10 days, it's kind of the perfect time of like getting that itch of like, there's gotta be, when you're vacation, I don't know if you guys feel this. You're just consuming a lot. It's like eat, drink, go to this place, pay money to do this, go here, pay money, or like it's all like consume, but to have like an outlet to work or like be creative and produce, it was nice after like 10 days of resting.
So you were behind the bar slinging coffee in Tokyo. And, like in my times in Tokyo.
Yeah. And you say times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just shook by how different it is from where we live in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
So serving specialty coffee behind the bar is something you're very familiar with. Right. What were like some commonalities and what were some main differences for that energy, that culture?
Well, it's like I think the most populated city in the world, and I was only there for 6 days in Tokyo specifically. So I'm not an expert by any means, but in my small journeys to multiple coffee shops, in the like high-end coffee shops, it is so different than an American specialty shop. Maybe it's probably similar to other places, maybe like Australia, because the menu it's literally just like coffee. You can get it filter hot, filter cold. You can get espresso, or people get like iced latte or hot latte. That's pretty much it.
No cappuccino?
I mean, I think there's like the normal, maybe like cappuccino, flat white, latte. It's kind of the big three.
Cappuccino.
Yeah, you're always talking about, dude, lay off.
I just love saying I love cappuccino, not like cappuccinos.
Just like saying I love pastry.
Yes. I think both of those things are hilarious.
Crumb. But the whole time, me and Ariel worked with me, and we had their store manager, Yuki, who was our translator. We spoke some Japanese, but I gave out one sugar the whole day, like one sugar, and nobody wanted cream or anything in their coffees. And that sounds, I'm just saying that from a reflection of that's not like a good or bad thing. It was just kind of crazy. And I don't know all the reasons why. I know public trash is really like sparse in Tokyo, but everybody for the most part sat and consumed their beverage and then gave me an empty cup and then left. They didn't, at that place, or at Sedai, they did mostly takeaway. But even I went to this place in Kyoto called Weekenders, and they have like no seating, but it's all for here. And so you like stand around and drink it, and then you give them the cup back. For me in that moment, I was like, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want as a coffee drinker. But then I was thinking about like how funny that would be for us to try to pull that off.
Yeah.
On the America. So
on the America.
That was crazy. They're also, I feel like for the most part, they're really into crazy coffees, especially in the like high end scene. So we went to a pretty popular place called Glitch I think they have them in a few different big cities, but we were in Nagoya, and you kind of like, they have like a bunch of coffees laid out in like jars, and they'll like do this, and you'll like smell it, and you're like picking which coffee you want and then like how you want to drink it. So we were with some people that just wanted like iced lattes, right? And so you would think like, yeah, you just say, I'll have an iced latte. And they're like, all right, what espresso are we going to do with that? She's like, could I recommend our anaerobic chirroso? It complements the milk so well. And I'm like, what?
Because I heard those words.
Yeah, in our heads, we're like, yeah, you just want to get a chocolatey, easy coffee. But I had it, and I was like, this is really fun. It's like, honestly, it's well extracted and it tastes good. It's just not what we would ever think about doing. And at least at Sedai, where I was working, there was no drip brewer or cold brew. So if anybody wanted a hot or iced coffee, and just making a pour over. And nobody the whole time anywhere I was ever looked like they were in a rush to get their drink and go. It was like, we're here.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because there still is an element of rush in the city. Like if you go to the train station,
Yeah.
there's so many people. I was one of them running around trying to make my train on time. But there's something, I guess, about like when you go to a restaurant or when you go to a coffee shop, it's like, I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because like how a coffee shop feels and operates is a reflection of the city it's in.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like from what I saw in Tokyo and from what you're telling me, the coffee shop experience is so slow. So you might think, oh, well, Tokyo is this slow living, you know, and it is quiet in a lot of ways in some parts, but like it's not. It's very like go, similar to here.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, do you think you served more drip, like pour over, or more espresso drinks?
I think I did more pour over, but Ariel was helping me run the espresso bar. I didn't really like logistically plan it too well. This is just a little detail. It's kind of funny. I brought 3 kilos of different coffees. We already talked about that in the last program. I don't even need to say it because everybody remembers.
Everyone remembers that.
The green box Colombia Santa Maria, the Churroso, and the pink Honey Honduras. And I just didn't consider the fact that I needed to like dose them out. So I'm like, just constantly have this kilo bag open and putting in a little cup. And their bar set up for like one person to just run. And so we were like 3 people fumbling around back there, which is pretty funny. But we had one of their busiest days. We really brought some people out, which is awesome. Shout out to David and his wife, Christy Lamont. They had a friend in Japan that they sent our way, and it was super sweet. We FaceTimed.
I was talking to him about that yesterday.
Really?
What's really funny about that to me is Riley's Instagram post about the pop-up. He put in the caption, like, hey, if you're in the neighborhood, like, come through and grab a drink. And I was like, at first, like,
I honestly just posted and I was like, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I don't know what else you would say other than like, we're just doing this cool thing.
Yeah.
And like, maybe we have some followers in Japan, but it like actually happened.
Hey,
someone.
Yeah, it was cool. And I mean, a big reason we were just on that trip was visiting all of our friends that have moved back to Japan. So we had like, that was like the magnum opus was all of them coming to the shop. And
that's
so,
cool.
And it's on like a quieter street. So it was just like inside and outside, just like full of people hanging out. And all the guys, the owners of Sedai, had like their friends and their coworkers coming in. So it was pretty sweet.
Me and Ross were at an event like the day after I made that post, catering, and someone was like, I saw you guys were like doing a pop-up in Japan. Like at this just like random corporate office event.
She asked if we like opened a location in Japan.
Oh yeah. And we were like, not yet. Right.
Yeah. I did go to a Minati's in Japan and a Verve in Japan.
Whoa.
Speaking of 2 American places that were in Japan.
Did seeing those places and working in Japan make you want to open a cafe in Japan?
Only if one of us was moving there.
Yeah.
It's such a tight operation, I think, anywhere where like whoever did it would just be the person doing it. You maybe get like 1 or 2 other people to help you do it, you know? But
because of space?
Because of space.
Yeah.
Verve was the only space I went in. Well, the Glitch in Nagoya had some seating. Verve was like a maybe 2,500 square, maybe 2,000 square foot space.
Is that the one where you like walk up the stairs?
No, it's like a really seamless patio.
They've got multiple, I think, right?
They must, because I think he went to one or 2.
I went to 2.
And then you didn't even go to the one that I went to. So there's at least 3.
Yeah. I think that's right. Because like I went to one in the mall, and then the one I am remembering now is like you go up these wooden stairs, and it's like this huge, like 20 something squares.
But a lot of places I went were like, well, this place, Coffee Mamea, was insane. It was like you have to stand outside and it's a tiny space, and there's 3 baristas. I feel bad calling them baristas. They're professionals. So I don't know what you'd call them. 3 coffee masters. And they come and get you one at a time whenever they're done serving their next guest. And they like have this menu of all their coffees. And it's like a whole start to finish experience. And Mamaea is called Bean Shop. And so they source all these coffees and they like bag it up themselves and they'll sell you a bag of it. And I think I had maybe 6 or 8 people in front of me when I walked up, and it took like me walking out with this was probably 45 minutes later.
Oh my gosh. All right. So you walked out with those beans after 45 minutes. What are they?
The coffee?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Man, it's just so nice. Turns out the guy who was serving me, Taka, was at Chicago for the SCA Expo.
No way.
He was like, what brought you in? And I was like, oh, I made a friend at SCA Expo named Alan from Code Black. You guys service coffee. He's like, oh, yeah, I know Alan. I was in Chicago. I was like, dude.
That's awesome.
I didn't drink this one. I ordered a Code Black coffee out of respect.
Yeah.
Represent.
For the Code Black community.
And it was good.
It was awesome. Yeah, I literally don't even remember what it was, and I'm sorry.
That's all right.
You're usually not much of a coffee guy on your trips, but it seems like you were like
The coffee guy.
into coffee this trip.
Well, we were just in cities, and
Yeah, dude, give him a break.
I think it was more about like hanging out with people. So it's just like sometimes we're just like looking to do something. I'm like, hey, we can go get coffee. I have a spot.
Yeah.
And sometimes like, especially in the morning, there was a time Meredith and Temple needed to nap. And they wanted to stay back. And I was like, I'm going to go.
You're like, bet.
I'm going to go into the city by
You went out
myself.
alone?
I went out alone a
That's
few
awesome.
times. Yeah. I went out as much as I could and then also try to like learn the train system. So I didn't have to like be on my phone, but I could just like do it.
Yeah.
They have a word for like tourists or foreigners called gaijin. So I was just trying to be as least gaijin as possible out there. But when you have a kid, you look very gaijin because you have like the diaper bag and like, but it was fun. But anyways, this coffee, honey processed, Costa Rican, geisha, Elevation 2000, MASL. And the rest of it is in Japanese. It's from Leaves Coffee Roaster. I don't know if they have a shop. That was one that I didn't put on my list that I forgot to put on my list. But I thought I had went to everywhere that I wanted to.
Both of these coffees are exceptionally vibrant. Do you guys know why that would be?
Well, they're probably good, but maybe it's also because they were brewed with
Third
wave water.
Bro, you got to tune into the last episode. We took the TDS of distilled water. Well, that's calibrating the refractometer.
Did you use the one they gave us, or did you use like our refractometer?
We used our refractometer.
That's awesome.
I forgot about the one that they gave us.
Maybe it would change the results. Maybe it's more specific.
I think the one that they gave us was like for water, not for coffee. So it's good that you used.
Where is it?
I just have one like in my car.
Just in case.
Nice.
Always ready.
Anyways, we took the TDS of I almost said distilled water again, of our water here, and then third wave water, and then of the coffee. And I think the results might shock you.
Wow.
But also, we should probably use the one they gave us because it kind of makes sense about our results now.
Yeah. But you'll just have to listen.
You're not going to tell me?
You have to listen anyways.
People are really getting to know that we don't know everything or anything.
I think the secret's out.
The secret's
Come
been
on,
out.
tell me. What the heck? Please.
Dude, it was all zero.
Wait.
It didn't pick up anything.
Yeah.
Except for the coffee, of course.
And then the coffee we were drinking was like 13%
hella
extraction.
under-extracted.
Live on air, which it wasn't a full sample size.
Oh, that's
It was
funny.
13, and that wasn't even, it wasn't even accurate, dude. It wasn't
It was
accurate.
nothing.
I'm just saying the TDS was like 0.8 or something like that.
We were just having
It was
fun.
bad.
Okay, as long as you guys were having fun.
But third wave water, love them.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to work with
You
idiots
just grab
like us.
a gallon of distilled water, rip open a packet and throw it in there. I was telling Ross last week, I just like having jugs of water as opposed to, it's just, they're portable.
That way it doesn't have to go to the fridge.
I don't have to go and wait at the fridge. Even that alone. And then on top of that, the water inside just makes my coffee taste vibrant and
what's
delicious.
Aesthetic on a kitchen counter better than a jug of water?
Distilled water,
Well,
yeah.
I put it in the cabinet.
Oh.
Yeah. Interior design 101. You don't leave things out that look bad. Those go behind the door.
Oh.
Open shelving,
What
countertops. It's all got to look good.
What if we designed a 1 gallon jug specifically for integrating third wave water into it?
And it looks good.
You seen Costco's milk jugs? Because those things are freaky.
Yes.
I'm just like, why? Why did you guys have to do it like that? It's still just a gallon of milk. It's like they wanted to make it look bigger.
Probably.
Go there, man.
Maybe it's better for stacking on pallets because it's like more square.
You know, a lot of people are saying your coffee quality increases by like 60% when you use third wave water too.
Like 3 people are saying that? 3 people sitting at this table?
I think
one person said it and then we just keep repeating.
Was it actually, did I say 60%?
You said 60%.
Okay.
So people are now saying 60%.
Yeah.
That's called influence.
For sure.
Riley.
Hey, quickly before we move on to our main course, the community is coming. And it's never been closer.
It's true.
And we said Q1. I know we said Q1.
We said Q1 2025.
Yes, so we're ahead of schedule.
You're early.
Yeah. But
maybe you'll be early.
We have a fabulous, fantastic new gal around here. Her name's Lyndon.
Lyndon Height.
And she is making everyone's life a little bit easier and making Valor a better place.
That's right.
And she's helping us make the community happen. And we've got deadlines now.
She was our X factor. The missing piece to actually mobilize our ideas.
So I'll just give you guys a little taste of what's coming.
Come on.
A course, Barista 101, everything you need to know to make coffee behind a bar. Everything.
Wow.
I mean, you could
your money back.
You watch this one and you can get by. All right.
Yeah, it's just the point is to take someone who's never been behind the bar before, someone with no experience. They go through this course, then they can operate the espresso bar.
You guys sat down and just knocked out like a ton of content about
infinity,
especially on like soft skills and some of our methods for handling situations. The dial method. I'm not even going to tell you guys what that is. You're just going to have to join the community to find out.
We've got we use every day in the cafes.
Yeah, we got resources, spreadsheets, PDFs, all sorts of stuff, and it's just we're sitting on it, and we can't wait to get it out. We just got a few things here and there to sort out before
it happens. To work out.
Some bugs,
some kinks.
So in the meantime, go ahead and sign up for alerts. I think it's the top link in our description.
Yeah.
Sign up for the community alerts.
I think the community is for anyone who, this sounds so cliche, but is looking to learn more, to take their coffee game to the next level. I specifically imagine managers or owners of coffee companies that want to give their team access to courses, to resources, and to other people in the industry, like-minded people that are all pointed in the same direction, which is getting better at coffee, running great coffee companies that are centered around people and hospitality and good employee culture, all that stuff that we're about. And so we just want to include more people in all of those things.
Yeah, we haven't even really talked about the community features, like all of our chat rooms and threads that are going to be going on there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I imagine there's different, I don't imagine this is actually how it is, different channels. One of them that I'm most excited for is baristas only, no bosses allowed. I think that one will be pretty great.
Wow.
And then there's also, some for bosses and leaders and owners. And, if there's a problem that you're running into in your cafe and you're stumped on it, or you want to get people's perspective that's different than yours, like, you've got a place to do that now. And there's not really that many places like that on the interwebs,
Yeah, I think the most popular coffee forum is Home Barista. You know that one? Home-barista.com.
Yeah, there could be some we don't know about, of course, but This is going to be a very specific and highly potent, pointed towards one thing kind of place, which is getting better at coffee. And I'm excited.
I got a couple questions for you guys. Is this for home baristas or is it more geared to indie industry types?
I think it'll be both. I think, we're going to have an entire channel open for feature requests because it's going to be new and we want to hear what people want.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly don't think a home barista is going to hurt from watching our Barista 101 course. That's only going to help you make better coffee. So there's that. And then especially as we start diving into more webinar related stuff, getting some smart and influential people from the industry to do some conversations. Like, who doesn't want to see that?
Like Joseph?
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially content specifically geared towards coffee itself and extraction. Like that totally applies to home baristas. But I think the majority of the content on there will be just like this program geared towards people that are working in the industry.
I see.
That. I think that's pretty clear. But
now, we're throwing a lot of names out there for the community. Is it just called the community now?
It's called the Valor Coffee Community.
it's kind of like the podcast, how we had a name for it, like Coffee Sometimes Podcast, but then we were like, screw it. We're just going to Valor Coffee Podcast.
Nice.
Yeah. So coming soon. Very soon.
How soon, Riley? Q1 2025?
No, sooner than that.
Definitely before then. We've got some summer deadlines. Hopefully we can get her done.
Yeah.
I heard you saying the word deadline out here yesterday, so there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, shout out Lyndon. Thanks, Lyndon. We know you're listening.
She better be. All right. Let's talk about what we talked about last week, but this time positive and not negative. Me and Ross are like the negative guys. You weren't here, so we just like went negative.
You're
Yeah.
like, oh, life stinks.
But
hey,
Yeah.
what were the big negatives, huh? Catch me up.
Like everything's a simulation. Like that was the main thing.
Like, don't bother.
Yeah.
Like, why?
It's all a simulation.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. Some of the main negatives for why, if you're running a coffee shop and you're buying coffee from another roaster, why you shouldn't start roasting your own brand of coffee. Basically, just it's hard. And it's hard. And it's like there's a lot of things that make it difficult. And if you don't have the vision of becoming a roaster, it's going to be pretty difficult, because if you're looking to just roast coffee for your cafe, you're looking at either like a small kind of janky roaster or like a small expensive roaster. There's really not much in between. Like a small expensive roaster is the bellwether, you know?
yeah, so a lot of it was definitely cost centric, especially circling around the topic of, we have people tell us they want to roast their own coffee so that they can save money. And we're like, it's not that simple, because sure, your cost of the bean itself goes down, but huge investment roaster, high utility cost, labor. Even if it is your own, that's time you could be spending doing something else.
And time is money.
And time is money. In this case, yeah.
And money is very
Guess so.
valuable.
But with all of that, we want to talk about, clearly, we started roasting with all of those negatives. So why did we start roasting?
Yep.
To go back on everything we've said, we started roasting because in the long term, you do save money at scale.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is what I thought a devil's advocate might say when you said it's wrong to think that you'll save money if you start roasting. Because like the devil's advocate would be like, well, eventually.
Yeah.
Like you get over the hump of that initial capital investment in your assets, like your roaster and all of your equipment, your sealer. Geez.
Oh. Sealers. All right, have a backup, guys. Seriously.
We've had 4.
Yeah. Comment below if you have a Steeler.
And which one you like the most?
But yeah, eventually you do save money. We were talking about back to the negatives. Like, remember our per pound cost back in the day?
True
like,
cost.
True cost.
Oh.
Just that, like, was it $22 a pound or something? Something like that.
Yeah.
That's high, guys. Okay?
That's our cost.
That's not good.
That number just lived rent free in my brain.
So I'm like, I guess. I mean, yeah, we're obviously a lot closer to things being cheaper, but I'm like, things have only gotten cheaper than if we would have wholesaled. Whole purchased.
Wholesold.
Very, very recently.
Well,
Took a long time.
Maybe, I mean, I'm having I have something on my face.
No, I did.
Okay. Can we go back in our brains about like we're working at the cart? We're a pop-up shop faking a coffee shop. And we're like, let's roast coffee?
Yeah.
Do you remember because I don't think we were just thinking money, right?
I think we wanted control over our own product. I feel like I remember that being a big thing.
Yeah.
And we wanted our coffee to be exactly what we wanted it to be.
And then we started roasting and we kind of sucked.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
and then that's another thing that also took many, many years to get to.
Yeah.
But yeah, wow.
It's a skill. Yeah, no, I think it was the control over the product. Not that our current product was bad or whatever. I think it was that. I think we rightly assumed that our retail sales would go way up, and they did. Like a retail bag, like our coffee, because the guests that are coming into our cafe or our cart at the time, they love Valor, they love us, so they're more likely to buy a bag of Valor coffee than at the time Cat and Cloud, which no one knew, people rarely knew.
I feel like we were selling in the ballpark of like 8 retail bags of Cat and Cloud per week, and then we jumped to, I mean, these
800.
These are not crazy numbers, but I guess percentage wise, while we were still at the cart, we probably jumped to like 25 of our
triple.
own. Yeah, that's a big percentage increase.
Triples are better.
Yeah, triples is best.
Triples is best.
Yeah, so there is that, but that control of your product thing, I just remember it was just like very, very small things. We were just like, man, this coffee's so good. I wish that it was just barely, and we were like, we can do that if we do this on our own. So that is a pro. Like our product now, for the most part, is exactly what we want it to be. And if it's not, we change it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We were working with someone across the country as well.
Yeah.
And so like I remember us, running out of coffee, and we're like checking our shipping confirmations of like, when's our coffee getting here?
Mm-hmm.
So having that kind of others like supply chain control was also a big play for us.
One huge thing and reason that kept us able to roast it all at the beginning is that if you are a coffee shop and you start roasting, you instantly have a large wholesale account.
Your own cafe.
And that is your own cafe, which is likely to be one of your biggest wholesale accounts for forever.
Mm-hmm.
So that is huge.
It's huge. And if you're wanting to get into wholesale, the cafes and the churches and the offices and the restaurants around your coffee shop are more likely to use your coffee because they are probably regulars in your cafe, or they know of your cafe and they've been impacted by it. I remember early on, that was just where all of our wholesale leads came from. Even when we weren't focusing on growing wholesale, was from our cafe. And that goes for local people, but it also goes for national people. Like if someone was in town and they came by our cafe and they loved it, they loved the coffee. Like that's the best litmus test for deciding what a coffee company or coffee roaster is all about, is like going to their cafe. Because if the cafe is not brewing the coffee well, then how can you trust that the coffee itself is good?
If I could put on my dunce hat for a moment and ask a question, are we assuming that anyone that's thinking about starting a roastery is like also thinking that wholesale is going to be a big part of their business.
We talked about that a little bit on the last program where we basically said, if you are going to do this in the traditional sense where someone is manning a roaster for significant hours, you should seriously consider going in that direction. Otherwise, you should consider something automated like the Bellwether.
Right.
And like keep it in your coffee shop and just like have a barista go and put coffee in and take coffee out and press the button.
Yeah. Or what about the Loring 7 kilo? You know, like I wonder what the minimum batch size is on that.
Yeah, bro. It's just like you're gonna put $80K into that roaster.
Yeah. Well, are there any drum roasters that size?
Yeah, there are plenty of drum roasters in that approximate size, but it's like that's again, it's just like labor intensive, you know,
to roast.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
for at least one person.
If you get a roaster of that size, the minimum batch size issue is less of an issue. Because that was all we said on the last program. Not that you listened to it, but
not going to either. Let's make that clear.
Minimum batch size was always an issue. Remember that? You bring on a new coffee, and it's like, dude, how are we going to sell 10 pounds of this coffee this week? Because we've got it roasted, and chances are, if we're fighting minimum batch size issues, then it's probably a more expensive coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So like the waste is even more of a killer because it's a more expensive coffee.
Yeah. So we already talked about how you definitely have a much larger audience who's going to buy your retail coffee. With that, you know, you could, even if you weren't even going to do wholesale, if you were just doing it kind of in your cafe, you can still set up a little bit of an online presence, just like a nice online store.
Right.
Buy coffee.
Squarespace.
Ship coffee. This podcast is brought to you by, I'm just kidding. I'm surprised. Squarespace sponsors everything. You guys notice that?
Yeah. They
Like,
still do?
Yeah. If you watch a YouTube video, it's just like sponsored by Squarespace.
It's crazy.
We got to get
And I'm like, all those people actually have Squarespace websites. I guess they wouldn't even sponsor us because I'm not going to have a Squarespace website.
Whoa.
Can I just be honest right now?
Yeah.
Like before this, I wasn't being honest. Just kidding.
You're being dishonest?
It's just hard for me to talk about how it's hard for me to list a ton of reasons why starting a roastery is a good idea for a lot of people. I guess another way of saying that is like, I think it's only a good idea for a very small group of people.
You're just jaded.
Another way of saying that.
We're a part of the elite?
No, another way of saying that is like, I've heard a lot of coffee shop owners that have one location say, I think we're going to start roasting eventually. And when I hear that, I'm just like, why? What are your reasons for that? Because if they're not the right reasons, I feel like you might get to a place that you don't love. Which I know that was last episode, but I'm bringing it up now to just ask you guys what you think about, like, what are the viable models out there for roasteries? Because it doesn't seem like there's that many. There's not like, all you got to do is just start it and it'll take off.
If you get lucky.
Well, yeah. Maybe the ethos that I'm picking up on is basically like when you're saying I'm going to get into roasting, you're kind of saying I think I'm going to start another company. And the idea of starting a company already is just kind of crazy. Like, I feel like it's maybe tied up with the American dream a little bit, but like, you know, we meet coffee people or just people all the time, specifically you, that are like, I'm thinking about starting a coffee shop. And probably a lot of times for you, you can look at that person and be like, man, that's a lot. Like, are you sure you want to take that on? So it seems like it's just doing the same thing, but later when someone who has a coffee shop's like, you know what, I'm going to start another business. And be like, whoa, that's kind of a lot. so when you're saying that, I was like thinking about us and being like, we obviously said that to people. Like, did they think the same thing? And it's just like, that's just the general risk of starting a business. So like most businesses fail when you start them. So if most people that say they want to get into roasting say they're going to get into roasting, does that just mean that most are going to fail? I don't know. But one thing that I think about, and I don't know if this is on our list, the roastery, I think, worked for us mostly because we have multiple owners. And maybe that's probably where you're coming from too, of like, if there's one human that's like, I have a coffee shop and now I want to have a roastery too, and I'm just one human, you're like, whoa, that might be too much. Might be much too much. Much too much. Much too much. What do you think about that, Riley?
That is on our list about multiple owners.
I just want to apologize then for getting ahead.
Yeah. So I thought I was the host.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I think what you're saying, which I agree with, is it's very hard to manage all of that as one individual. However, the coffee industry is not incredibly lucrative. So if you do have multiple partners in a business, it is one of your most viable options for continued growth is to open a roastery. And that's a pro for it. Because you could either look at it as like, the three of us have a coffee company. We're going to open 3 cafes and we're each going to have a cafe in a way, or at least our pay is going to come from one cafe each.
Mm-hmm.
That is a consideration. Cafes have ceilings a lot of times.
Oh, they all have a ceiling.
Literally
mostly.
and figuratively.
Yeah, I think.
So they have a ceiling on what the sales can be. I mean, I guess you can just get a bigger space in a more trafficked area and just keep doing that.
Bigger
but
drinks.
It's like a roastery kind of doesn't have a ceiling, or the ceiling is a lot higher.
Right.
So, I mean, literally and figuratively.
15 feet here, not bad.
Yeah. So
It's not that good though.
15 and a half.
Oh.
Yeah. So whenever you're dealing with that, I mean, technically, I think the 3 of us could have this roastery and probably have a business. Obviously, our 2 cafes are huge wholesale accounts. And we've gotten most of our wholesale accounts from that. But I'm just saying, like, if you were going to have an outlet of like, we need growth to sustain multiple partners, this would probably be our outlet.
So you're saying if we had to play like kiss, marry, kill with our businesses, you would marry the roastery?
I would marry the roastery, kiss the podcast.
Kill the cafes?
I don't want to say
You
that.
You can't have the roastery without having a podcast, though.
So that's why I'm going to kiss the podcast.
He's kissing the podcast.
Yeah, but a podcast isn't its own business.
No, I'm going to keep kissing the podcast.
No, that's not how it works. That's not how the game works.
One way or another, I'm not going to say that because our cafes are like my favorite outlet of our business, and that we get to like employ people and like showcase that. And then how can we sit here and even act like we know, we don't know what we're talking about, but even to act like we know what we're talking about without having cafes,
right?
To like as a proof of concept of things we're saying, or a not proof of concept, positive or negative.
Sure.
Yeah. So, but just with that being said, it's like our cafes, now our roastery makes more than our cafes do individually. So it's
which is huge.
Which is
great.
Yeah. And that's awesome. It does that. And this is to talk about another pro with significantly less staff. Like, it's crazy. So that is a pro to all of this, is that you
basically a third of the staff.
With a third of the staff, maybe because there's no tips involved, our wages for those people are higher.
Right.
Some of them are on salary. So, but even still, as a percentage of labor, your cost of goods sold are definitely higher, but then your labor is way lower. So that is a huge pro. And then, I mean, staffing is just hard, we talked about it before. It's like one of the hardest parts about running a business is dealing with people. And that's like one of the most fruitful and beautiful parts of the business, but it's also one of the hardest parts. And then hiring people and staffing. The con with the less staffing is that whenever people are out of town, it's a lot harder in the roastery because it's like if someone's out of town, if one person is out of town in the cafe, that's like 10% of our staff is gone.
Yeah.
But if one person is out of town here, it's like 25% of our staff is gone.
Right.
That's a big difference. But I would say that's a huge reason or thing to look forward to is that you'll be able to staff less people.
What's funny is it's like from a business perspective, that is such a pro, but it was like, I feel like a slight negative in the beginning when you're building, because it's like kind of lonely, you know, you said like Sam here most days by himself, but it's awesome now that we've gone to the size where we have like, you know, there's multiple people here every day.
And they're all super tight. They all feel so vital to the operation because they know that they are and they feel it whenever someone's not around or someone's
you
sick.
can kind of like hit a more minimum standard in a cafe, maybe like sneak out a little bit.
Yeah.
Not saying that we don't do that in the cafe, right? We're 110%. But here it's just like, dude, I mean, coffee's not getting shipped out today if we're not all busting it.
Yeah. So they all know they know their worth here. That's for sure. Lastly, you have a lot larger global brand as soon as you start roasting coffee. And that, as we're talking about business growth, is pretty big, especially if you're selling online. It's like we're not just the local Alpharetta cafe anymore. We're an international conglomerate with a global headquarters based in Georgia.
Right.
Yeah. This sort of brings up the last point about the scale of your business and how many partners you have, but it's way easier and more efficient to start a roastery and form a national or global brand than it is to open like 10 cafes. Like, you know, I wonder how much debt you have to get into to open 10 cafes as opposed to achieve the same gross revenue but with a roastery and like 2 cafes, you know. It's probably like way different. But yeah, I like, it's an amazing feeling to ship coffee to people you've never met across the country. You're just like, how do these people know us? And then when those people just keep ordering,
like subscribe.
They subscribe.
You're like, what?
It's like, dude, I mean, I know our coffee's good. I'm glad you think so too, Mr.
Don't say anyone's name, dude.
Yeah, we keep everyone's
Mr.
name
Smith.
private.
Oh, now they're gonna know.
Oh, crap. That is a cool place to be. That's what makes this cool.
Yeah, and then that the global brand does affect the local brand too. People that have bought our coffee across the nation, nay, across the world, when they come into our cafes, it's not like that's like really, really, really good for business or something, but it's just so cool.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, valuable thing. One other point I wanted to add is that this roastery has forced me to learn skills that I wouldn't have learned if we just had cafes, like sales and like talking to people and like understanding people's needs, and which is all sales is kind of. I probably wouldn't have learned that in the same way if we just had cafes. So it feels like running this side of the business and in wholesale would equip me to get a different job if I had to do that. Not that that's on the horizon.
When Valor bombs, yeah.
If and when that happens. It just feels like I have more skills. Like I've had to grow in ways that I didn't know I would have to grow working on this side of the business.
That's really appealing to a lot of business owners. So that is a pro. It's like it is a separate business, but obviously it's still in the same industry. So you have like some confidence stepping out into it, but you're going to gain a lot from it too.
I think a really interesting path to take that some people have taken that seems to be working is growing an influence in some in some respect, and then starting a coffee roastery, a la Scott Rao
Mm.
and
Emma Chamberlain.
or
You can't,
Classic
you
duo.
can't
remaining
separate those
remaining
two.
in coffee, Kyle Roswell. Like those people have started. Like obviously Scott had like a really long career in coffee and has been doing that for a long time. But with that being said, like big following, and then you're like, now I'm gonna monetize my following. I roast coffee, and then you already have a huge audience right from the beginning.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that's definitely should be considered in some of your strategy if you're going to wholesale quickly and you need that and you have a cafe, is like, don't do what we did and just assume all these people you know are going to use your product, but maybe like talk to them and like start working that sales side of yourself of like figuring out if what you can offer is compatible for what these people in your local community might need. Wow.
That was really good.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't even know what happened. I just blacked out.
Do you guys have anything else that you want our viewers and listeners to know?
It's really fun to have this place.
Yeah.
Like it, I know it's more than just fun. Like it's very useful. It serves as a resource for both of our cafes in a huge way. Like behind this camera is 2 pretty big shelves of just cafe stuff. And that stuff would just have to be at our cafes if we didn't have this place.
Or in our storage unit.
Or in a storage unit. I was just about to say that, Riley.
Yeah, we're a storage unit.
I'm the host, so.
And you know, we make our syrups here, we make our kegs here. That's not necessarily like roasting coffee centric, but that's a really nice thing. We can do training here for our cafes, which is really great because
We have the gym.
we have a gym.
We can host Monkey Man watch parties on Friday night.
Thank God.
One more note on what I just said, training.
Monkey Man.
Dylan. Dylan, please come.
When you're hiring someone who's never worked in coffee before, you don't necessarily want to just throw them behind the bar and have them make drinks for your guests because you want those
Why
drinks.
not? You're already paying them.
Well, you know,
You're gonna pay them to like not work behind the bar?
well, you know, you might have a certain standard for your products,
No.
and maybe that person can't meet the standard because they've never worked in coffee before. Does that make sense? And so you can train them off site here.
Yes. Yeah.
Which, you know, wholesale plug if you're in the Southeast. That's a really great thing about working with us is we've got this beautiful training area behind us.
With an espresso machine, that works.
That works.
A lot of people are saying it doesn't work.
Got it all tuned
They're
up.
wrong.
Bronny's Coffee Tech had a bone to pick with that assertion, and they got it working.
They have a bone to pick assertion. Yeah.
This guy's on a high horse.
Jeez, okay. You know, I had something to say, but now I don't have anything to say.
I think we're done here.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just glad to be back.
Yeah.
Glad to
So,
have you back.
I can't.
I didn't know you were gone, but
Yeah.
Good to
When
have you
you
back.
got back, there was just a weight lifted off my shoulders.
Like, man, I don't have to do an orientation. Like, I don't have to respond to this hiring email. I don't have to take the compost anymore. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Hey, well, I'll see you guys on Friday for the Monkey Man watch party.
not gonna see you before then. Like all day today, all day tomorrow.
I'm still jet lagged. I gotta take my days.
All right.
Nah, I'm kidding.
We'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Love you. Bye.